Yeah, it's been a long week. It's been many weeks that have been long like this. So here's a quick progress report. So many things, but I'm going to condense this. So number one, pre-sequel and book one. Both of those are now bona fide ebooks. Neither of those are published just yet, but more information on that pretty soon. I copyrighted both of those. That was scary. I mean, it didn't cost a lot. It was just, yeah, it's not that expensive at all. It's a commitment. Like, we're actually committing to something now when we copyright that. That sounds a little bit more serious. So apparently we're serious. All right. So speaking of things that were also scary commitments, picking genres. Wow, that was like a week-long ordeal of just trying to understand not only what my genre of writing was, but the subgenres. There are so many of those. Some of them were very obvious to me, just right off the top. Like I knew, okay, sure, inspirational, just because of what I've been through, right? That made sense. It was a memoir. Those two were no-brainers. But the more I dug into this, the more I realized that you need to be able to pick many different subgenres for categorization purposes on Amazon, on Story Origin, all the different platforms that are out there for authors. And I knew that thrillers were a thing, but I didn't realize that there was a subgenre called a paranoid thriller. Psychological thriller I kind of knew too, but I found that, yeah, paranoid thriller is a subgenre of the psychological thriller. So yes, my books are, I'm going to read what I wrote here because there's no way I'm going to memorize this, but my genres are inspirational / paranoid / psychological thriller / magical realism. We'll talk about that more in a second. / memoir with elements of self-help, humorous advice, how not to's. Adventure, poetry, and interactive time travel, all based on 99% true life stories that read like fiction because I somehow survived to tell them. That sounds pretty intense. Now, let me just really briefly touch upon this magical realism thing. That was exciting. When I found that label, first off, I don't like labels, right? I don't think any of us do. We don't want to be categorized. We don't want to be limited to something that somebody calls a specific thing and then you're stuck there and you can't ever change and grow. So right off the top, it was a little awkward to find these genres from that perspective. I had to shed that mentality to understand, oh, actually, this really helps people find you. And actually, genres are less about the author. They're more about the reader. It's the flavor or the feeling, the aesthetic feeling. It's less about form, apparently, and more about the aesthetic feeling you get as a reader when entering a universe that someone else has created. And I find that a lot of authors, well, pretty much everybody is talking about the universe of the author, which is so, it was amazing to find that because I've always felt that about every human being. We have the universe, right? The one that we speak of, that we all inhabit. And then we have every single person is a universe. I've always felt that to be true growing up. And I've even written poetry about this. You know, when you meet somebody and you learn all of how they think and all of how they look at things and the uniqueness in which each one of us has been made, you know, our ability to create and see the world around us is completely unique. I mean, there is overlap for sure. We're like humans and stuff. So we have some overlap of conversation and things that we understand and share together. But each one of us sees things so uniquely. It's amazing we don't have more wars. I mean, I get a little bit messy here with that. I mean, a little negative with that, but it's true. Communication is messy. Trying to understand somebody else's perspectives is really messy. It's a lot easier to slap a label on somebody and just judge someone and say, hey, you're this, right? This is why we have wars, and this is why we have hard times with communicating. But anyways, back to being an author. I found this amazing to find that the universe of an author is what's at stake here and what is needed to be categorized so that a reader can find you. So when there's 16,000 categories of different types of genres in Amazon, now this is starting to make a little bit more sense. It's overwhelming when you get to Amazon and you have to figure these things out. But that's why there's tools out there to help you do this too. But yeah, so wow, I landed on magical realism as one of the many different flavors, aesthetic flavors of how a reader would feel when entering your universe. And this is what I found magical realism to be. It's not so much based on fantasy and things that are outside the realm of possibility, or at least it's not like a Narnia or something where it's a completely different world like Star Wars or Lord of the Rings, or, you know, something where you have to go somewhere physically else, a different physical universe, even though it's in your head, right? But to read the story, you have to be somewhere else. No, magical realism apparently focuses on the realism, where it's happening in the current time, and it even can be nonfiction. It's based on things we recognize, cities, places we inhabit, events that make sense, that are normal to us, except that there is a level of abnormalcy, a couple or several different unexplained situations, abilities, or things that happened that you can't quite explain or understand with reality. I'll leave it at that because there's a lot of different ways in which that can be explained. But man, did that make sense for me because of what I've lived through. Having been on the drugs for 26 years and having gone, for those who don't know me yet, let me go ahead and quickly clarify. Pharmaceuticals for mental health, not recreational. Having been on drugs for 26 years until July 4, 2010, there were so many unexplained things where either memory was skewed, or I wouldn't say that I saw things that weren't there, but I saw some things that weren't there. Or at least I remember things that I'm like, how could that have happened? And I've survived so many things that I shouldn't have. And there's been these dormant abilities that I've had that when I've tried to explain these to other people in the past, they've been met with a little skepticism, misunderstanding. And the magic behind that is just the creativity in which I lived in while I was trying to get off the drugs. And then when I finally did, all those abilities that seemed to come at random, I had much better control over. I'll leave that alone because it's really, the books that I write on this, they read like fiction because my goodness, I can't believe I lived through so many of these things, and a lot of them don't make sense to me now, but not entirely, but they're exciting to me because they don't read like nonfiction. I'm plugging myself a little bit here, I recognize that, but I'm excited about these genres that I finally got to understand how to label myself with. All right, so really quickly, some more updates. I'm partnering with similar genres, and that's been kind of tough as well because, again, there are so many that trying to find people to partner with is tricky. It involves a lot of research and reaching out. So these next 3 months, I'm going to be doing a launch of book 1 of the follow-up series to that prequel that I'll share some more towards the end. We're in week 1 right now, and what this is going to entail is a lot of marketing and catching up on professional communications, promotionals at the end of every newsletter. So heads up, I am going to be putting some promotional images that you can click on to go to other books that hopefully are similar to my genre. I don't want that to come out of left field, so I'm giving you guys a heads up on that. You can help me out by clicking on those, but I don't want you clicking on things just to help me. If it seems natural because they seem intriguing to you, and there's things that you might actually want to read, go for it. Go ahead, click on those things. It definitely helps, and it helps my partners too, because again, I'm trying to find my other authors out there so we can help each other out. That's pretty much all I got. I'll leave you with the pre-sequel. It's ready for download right now. I'm going to have the link at the end here in a second, as well as in the description. So please feel free to share that. That is going to go a long way for me if you do that. I'm going to be focusing on book 1 of the follow-up series for most of the 3 months that I'm launching, because we're launching that one. And I'll be reaching out to those of you who've been asking me for a while, what can I do? Yeah, you'll be hearing from me. I got plenty for you. Cheers.